2026. So big applause for BPCL. So these were the few of the activities which have been undertaken and which are going to happen. So that is a great opportunity to reveal here. Thank you very much for all.
Thank you, Manish. So I'll just wrap up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your comments and thank you for taking the time out. And the discussions have been very encouraging, and I think at the right time, because our policy is under finalization and the regulations will follow that. So I think all this has been very topical. I'll just say three things. Policy is the enabler, innovation is the driver, and collaboration is the catalyst. We have heard the importance of international collaboration, learning from global experiences, aligning standards and building partnerships will definitely accelerate our SAF journey. I think the most critical takeaway is that the next 3 to 5 years are decisive. What we do now through policy clarity, through investment, through R&D and collaboration will determine whether SAF moves from promise to practice at scale. I am also happy to note that the announcements which are made today, they are not symbolic. They are signals of momentum, of a journey, of commitment, and of the collaborative spirit that defines this. Before we close, I would like to thank Ekta here, who's, I think, the SAF driver, and she is been working tirelessly for this. Thank you once again, and I'm sure we will all collaborate together to produce not only for India, for the region and for the world. Thank you.
And welcome to the Advanced Air Mobility Roundtable. Great to see a packed room. This is, of course, one of the most exciting topics we can address at the Wings India conference, I think. I would say that, of course, I'm a big proponent for advanced air mobility. But we are at an incredible stage or time in our industry, I think, with so much happening and so much innovation and technology. So we have a lot to get through, two very big panels, and I'm immediately going to hand over to Mr. Secretary, Shri Samir Kumar Sinha, Secretary at the Ministry of Civil Aviation, who's going to make a few opening remarks and get us going. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the first post-lunch session, but the topic is very, very exciting, and I think one of the most important sessions I was looking forward to attend. So distinguished industry leaders, innovators, regulators, researchers, and my colleagues, Senior Economic Advisor in the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Sri Piyush Srivastava, this Asanga Chuba Ao, has he left? It's a real pleasure to join the Roundtable on Advanced Air Mobility, a domain that represents one of the most exciting frontiers in global aviation. The theme of today's session, India's Skyward Arc, Accelerating AAM from Vision 247 to reality, captures the opportunity before us. Advanced air mobility is about redefining how people and goods move in dense urban and regional environments. Globally, the eVTOL market is projected to grow, as we all know, rapidly over this decade, driven by electric propulsion, automation, and new business models for short-range mobility. These platforms, designed for small passenger loads and operating sorry, without traditional runways, have the potential to transform urban transport, emergency services, logistics, and regional connectivity. For India, the technology is strategically significant. Our cities face rising congestion, infrastructure constraints, and growing demand for faster mobility. Advanced air mobility offers a pathway to complement surface transport while supporting cleaner, quieter, and more efficient movement. India is currently at an early but promising stage of ecosystem development. Several Indian startups are building indigenous eVTOL platforms targeting urban passenger transport, cargo movement, and emergency applications. Global players are also exploring partnerships to launch air taxi networks in India over the next few years. At the same time, the regulatory architecture is evolving. DGCA has already constituted multiple working groups to develop frameworks for certification, operations training, vertiports, and air traffic integration. Field trials are being planned at identified sites to test technology, infrastructure, and operational readiness. In fact, a few days back, not very long back, maybe around 4 or 5 days back, some of us collected were there in the Ministry of Civil Aviation trying to work on this, in fact, review this eVTOL and advanced air mobility. And we realized that the regulations and whatever supportive policies that should be there in place, ideally, is already there in place, and we are comparable to whatever is happening in the West. So this is something which is very encouraging. Our companies are also working very hard in this arena. So this phased approach is important. Advanced air mobility must be introduced safely, systematically, and with public confidence. Looking ahead, 3 priorities stand out. First, policy and regulation. India needs a dedicated national AAM policy framework that provides clarity on certification pathways, operator licensing, safety standards, and integration with existing aerospace systems. The second relates to infrastructure and testing. Vertiports must be embedded within urban planning and airport master plans. Charging systems, maintenance facilities, and low altitude corridors will be essential to support scalable operations. Third, research, skills, and localization. Indigenous R&D, manufacturing, and skill development must be encouraged so that India builds not only operational capability but long-term technological leadership. Advanced air mobility will succeed only if it is treated as a system which requires coordination across aviation, energy, urban development, digital platform, and the larger public policy. If approached with the right balance of ambition and caution, India has the potential to emerge as a global hub for AAM innovation, designing, testing, certifying, and eventually exporting next generation mobility solutions. Advanced air mobility is not a distant vision for 2047. It is a transition that has already begun. Our task now is to ensure that this transition is safe, inclusive, and firmly aligned with India's long-term developmental goals. So these are my opening remarks. I am really looking forward to a very candid and thought-provoking discussion and dialogue and also suggestions. So I stop here. Over to Mr. Jonathan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. That, I think, really helped set the scene, and may I thank you personally for the leadership you've shown already new into the job at the Ministry and already driving us forward. As you say, the meeting we had at the Ministry last week was really helpful in bringing together the key people who are going to make advanced air mobility in India a reality. And I fully endorse your opening remarks. India has that potential, no doubt, to be a global hub of innovation in advanced air mobility. And I love to look around this room now and see all of those innovators sat here, many of them on my panel. We have two panels where we're going to discuss and debate some of the issues. We will try and debate as much as we can. But we now have 15 panelists in the first panel. And I think about 10 panelists in the second panel. So as you can imagine, that's going to be quite challenging. Time is going to be everything. But I'd also like to endorse what the Secretary said. We talk in India a lot about 2047, Viksit Bharat and the vision for 2047. We cannot wait until 2046 to say, how are we doing? We have to be on that pathway today and now. And I think those innovators, those actors, the people that will make it happen are in this room. So let's make the most of the next hour. It is a very big panel. The first panel is going to look at aircraft technology and ecosystems. And I want to try and steer you all to think more about and talk more about ecosystem. I'm going to take it as read that we can build aeroplanes, and all of you guys who are building aeroplanes, we're going to assume you can do that. So we don't need to debate the aeroplanes. The technology, we're, I think, more or less clear on what the technology is aimed to deliver. So let's talk about how we make it happen in the ecosystem context. So we're already well into the session. I'm going to give you 2 minutes each, panelists. I'm going to start at one end and work through. I'd like in that 2 minutes, please, for you to raise what you think is one, maybe two, if you can do it in 2 minutes, critical factor we must address, and that you would love Mr. Secretary to take back to the ministry, remembering that this is something that we need to address. So let's get on with that. Joel, you are lucky to be first on the panel, so I'm just going to pick on you. And go ahead. Your 2 minutes starts now. What do you think, Joel? Key factors we must address.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for this opportunity. So my name is Joe. I work for eFair Mobility. We are an embryo company looking to develop a piloted 4-seater eVTOL that will be certified by FAA and also ANAC in 2027. So we've been working a lot with some of our operators here, including Hunch Mobility, for instance, which we have a soft order for. And I think a key thing that we understand a lot is how can we enable these operators to alleviate some of the capital costs, whether that may be infrastructure costs, like setting up electrical charging points, the grid, and of course, operational costs, like how can we reduce landing fees and equitable access to airspace. So I think that's really my topic that I hope to raise in this particular roundtable. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Joel. So cost, yeah, absolutely critical. Where is the money going to come from is the flip side of that. If these guys can reduce the cost, where's the money coming from to make this revolution happen? Not a question specifically to you, Kanika, but I'll hand it on to you anyway. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Jonathan. And can I just thank all of you all for joining us? We started this Advanced Air Mobility Committee in FICCI about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I think every one of you have come on board as partners and helped us build this committee and got us here to this discussion. So thank you so much for partnering with the committee. And we really hope to take your problems up ahead and help get solutions primarily. That's the focus behind the committee. I think the one thing that I have learned from each one of you while discussing as chairperson of the committee has been the importance of engaging with the state and city governments as early as possible to facilitate necessary planning has been something which we've not focused on a lot. I think there's so much to be done that this is something which has probably not come up on top of the agenda, but we are at a stage where if we really want to do the first commercial flight with Joel or my friends from Vertical over there or from Sarla, we need to know how we're going to be flying in these cities. Which are we going to be using rooftop helipads? Is the state government prepared for it? Is the state municipal corporation prepared for it? We're a private jet operator currently, and for every helicopter takeoff, I require 29 permissions. There's a fire truck that comes, there's an ambulance, there's a car that comes, there's a police vehicle that comes, the collector sends someone. So imagine having that happen for every eVTOL takeoff. So I think, Secretary Sir, our request to you would be, as the committee, if we can work, and we would be happy to form a subcommittee and work with the ministry to engage with the state and city governments of key locations, such as maybe Hyderabad, Bombay, Bangalore, which are the 3 key cities, on how we can start planning with these state corporations to enable eVTOLs ASAP. Thank you.
No, we'll just go through them and then we'll come back to them. So we're noting all of these down. So we'll come back to debate on some of these issues at that stage. Thank you, Kanika. Moving on to our friends at Sala. Well outspoken across India on the whole topic of advanced air mobility, at least from my LinkedIn feed, that's true. Adrian, what are your thoughts on, again, what are some of the critical issues that you see that will get us to market, not just building aeroplanes?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm representing Sarla here together with Paya. We're, of course, building eVTOL out of Bangalore. I think there are a lot of points that sort of like, that we're working on how we get this to market, which are great and important points. I think one of the big challenges for us is just indigenization of supply chain, which I don't want to raise as a topic here right now. I think what's really exciting is sort of, can we think beyond regulating this from an operational point of view, basically like non-scheduled operators are regulated today with helicopters, and like, can we start at least conceptualizing that kind of mass traffic management system that we will see by the middle of the century. So one topic that I like to raise is how can we start to conceptualize like what could be a unified payment infrastructure for in the banking sector? What could be that for the sky? Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, I think that really shines the light on what does a commercial system look like post-launch. And much of that will be digitized and software-driven, we think. But does it look like what we have today, or is it really reinventing something for tomorrow? Payal, you're on the next panel, so I'm going to jump you as Sal has spoken. Clem.
Thanks, Jonathan. If I could start with a bold statement. None of the OEMs can actually deliver on what they've promised. They're investors in the community. What they've promised is aviation on demand. That's dependent on a multitude of vertipad destinations. If all you're using is existing airports and helipads, it's not a revolution, it's an evolution of the helicopter. You can do that by helicopter today. So the revolution can only come where you get a fine grain of destinations that takes away those friction points. The vertiports must be more like bus stops than airports. They must be affordable, modular, able to be moved around, and not a big impediment to the capital investment requirements of the whole industry. At Skyports, we've come up with a product called the AeroBerm that satisfies a number of these issues in terms of the issues that are going to arise when you try to land an aircraft in a commercial setting. Now, there are 3 show-stopping issues: downwash and outwash. That can kill people. You need a big area for safety. Our pad shrinks that by research we've done on the surfaces. Noise is another issue. Everybody likes to say electric aviation is quiet. It's not quiet. It's quieter, but it's still very noisy taking off. Now, if you're a sensitive use near a vertiport, that's potentially a problem. So we need to address the noise. The last thing is fire. Now, this is something nobody wants to talk about because, of course, we don't expect the aircraft to catch fire. But when they do, battery fires can only be put out by one way, and that's full immersion in water. So we have a patent for an immersion tank underneath our vertipad, which provides that peace of mind for the property sector. As far as capital costs go, it shouldn't be put on government. Government should deliver the major vertiports and maybe a handful of them around the big cities, but let the private sector want to join the industry. They see the aircraft flying around, they want the aircraft to land at their place. They can buy a modular vertipad, a safe place to land, and join that network. So partner with the community.
Thank you, Clem. Nothing like an Aussie to bring us down to ground, back down to earth and some harsh realities. But I thank you for that, because this is an exciting visionary revolution, but we need to stay grounded, quite literally. So how we build out that ground infrastructure in a way that brings aviation literally into the heart of our communities is a really big issue. Thank you. Divya, one to follow from an aircraft manufacturer perspective.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Divya from the E-Plane company. And the tasks that we see that need to be done to build advanced air mobility is we need to see what is it that we want to achieve with advanced air mobility. We want the advanced air mobility to get adopted really fast in its phase 1, so that the phase 2 we are able to scale it up. In order for it to get adopted, which is get adopted by the Indian customer, it's important to understand who's this Indian customer. The Indian customer is a price-sensitive customer. The Indian customer wants digitally enabled stuff. The Indian customer wants reliable stuff. If you look at the price sensitivity point, there are two aspects to it. One, on the aircraft side, how can you make that cost effective? And the second is on the operation side. How do you make your landing costs low? How do you make your charging infrastructure cost effective, etc.? In terms of aircraft certification cost and aircraft cost in total for it to come down, we need to look at some design-linked incentives as well as some production-linked incentives in the eVTOL sector as well. And when we talk about digitally enabled, we should look at how the airspace is going to get integrated with the ground infrastructure, which is your hospitals, your malls, your metro stations, etc. Also have a single window clearance between all your ministries, the state government, the police, etc. The third point, which is a reliability point, of course, on the aircraft certification, the vertiport certification standards and pilot certification standards, we're very fortunate that DGCA has been very forthcoming and released the regulations already. But there is one part which still needs our attention, which is skill development. We're looking at a good 1,500 aircraft flying in 5-7 years from now. We need that many number of pilots, ground staff, engineers to be trained. So these are some of the points from our side.
Thank you, Divya. Yeah, the question of pilots and pilot availability, I've noticed very much at this conference and this show, that whole question of pilots and pilot training is really rapidly rising to the surface, and I really welcome that. And surely there's no country on earth better placed to supply us with the next generation of pilots than India. Phil, having said that, you want to take the pilot out of the aeroplane entirely. So you solve one problem that we thought we maybe had. Over to you.
Thanks, Raj, and appreciate the opportunity to be here. In fact, the areas I want to highlight have already been mentioned already by the Secretary, which has been great, and that is airspace integration. We at WISC are making an autonomous aircraft, which means we have no pilot. And as a result, the existing procedures, VFR, IFR, etc., are somewhat not applicable for what we actually want to operate within the airspace. And so the digitisation of airspace actually then enables the scaling of these systems, and also it alleviates the training problem that we just mentioned about the pilots. There's a national and international skills shortage with pilots. And so we see that scale is inevitable when you look at autonomy. But the challenge with autonomy, of course, is that we need to have a digital airspace. With that, we can scale. I also agree with the other points that the rest of the panel members have mentioned about infrastructure. I think that's critical for us to enable where we place infrastructure and how that infrastructure is embedded into either existing or new locations. So those would be the 2 points that I raised, would be airspace and infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. For sure, digitisation. We've talked about that endlessly over the last 2 decades, have we not? What does that really mean? Digitisation across a plethora of technologies, I think. Nice segue for Honeywell, who offer us a plethora of such technologies, I believe. Alamalu, over to you. And again, yes, please remind everyone, introduce yourself and your company. I'm sorry, I should have asked you to do that at the start.
Sure. My name is Alamelu, and I come from Honeywell. We're located at Bangalore. And we are the tier 1 suppliers for the major OEMs, many of whom are sitting very much in this room here. Secretary Sir, as much as we are focusing on infrastructure, ecosystem, just like my very competent colleague here talked about, what is needed for us to evolve technologically and be a technology leader when we enter the scene in India, it is important for us to start looking at building fully autonomous systems, which means we have to start evolving from simplified vehicle operations to remotely supervised autonomy to fully autonomous. Start looking at AI and connectivity today, so it is not a phase 2, but a parallel activity that can be completely done collaboratively with research institutions and universities which have very prominent and capable professors and technology here. The end goal for us is to build reliable navigation, which can definitely be a safety asset that can be considered by all the common people here. Solid airspace management is another one that is of importance for us to consider, as well as technologies related to DAA, communication and propulsion. So the more impetus we can give in parallel with ecosystem on building technology, the right technology with partnership on the global scale will help us be the leaders here.
Thank you, Alamalu. So yes, digitization, autonomy, we're rapidly heading down that tunnel in this discussion. I've got a confession to make. I talk about this a lot too. I'm not sure I really understand it. What do we really mean by digitization and autonomy and in this space? What does that really look like? Is that just my phone that's going to control aeroplanes in the future? Fortunately, we have Nate from SkyGrid. I've been over your website 100 times, Nate. What do we really mean? What is this challenge of digitization really and autonomy all about?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. I'm going to take a step back real quick. I'm Nate Isbell from SkyGrid. We're part of the Wisk and Boeing family as well. And I remember 2 years ago, we were in, I think, that room over there, not this room, and we were having a very similar conversation. But the difference this year is that I think that we're starting to see not just the investment in the market, but the products coming to market now. So 2 years ago, we were looking at this investment and people were still, we're trying to understand how we're going to fund a lot of this. And I think some of those questions have been answered. We still have many more funding questions to answer on the infrastructure side. But I just want to take a step back and reflect that, we were all here 2 years ago, and it's really neat to see the evolution. From a personal standpoint, in 2 more years from now, I want to be able to take my son, take my daughter onto an airplane. I think everyone in here probably has a passion for aviation. If you don't, you should. So come talk to me afterwards and we'll make sure you have a passion for aviation before you leave this room. But I want my son and my daughter to be able to fly on an eVTOL in the next 2 years. So personally, I've given myself that challenge. I've worked for a number of eVTOL OEMs, and now we're on the airspace integration side. So when we talk about digital aviation or autonomous aviation, what does that really mean? What we're looking for is the rules specifically that will support autonomous aviation. Those rules will also support crewed aviation in a more efficient manner as well. So we're looking for an extension. We have VFR rules, we have IFR rules. What we're really looking for is that next step, which we're calling autonomous flight rules, or AFR. And what that looks like is, it looks like a set of tools for the operators and the ANSPs to use, such that they don't have to use voice comms every time they want to do something, such that they don't have to file a flight plan and wait for it to be validated. They can validate that flight plan amongst themselves in a federated way without having to ask for permission every time they want to fly, such that landing zones from the onset will be cleared, not just for takeoff, but also for landing, because eVTOLs have a lot of constraints on the energy side. So what we're asking for is the rules that govern the sky to take that next step, because if we want to realize Clem's dream of having thousands of vertiports, we need airspace that supports more dynamic airspace networks, right? So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nate. That helps. That really helps put the problem in perspective for me. What are the rules? And what's the next stage of the rules development? And I agree, wouldn't it be great if we could fly eVTOL within 2 years? Derek, can we fly eVTOL in India in the next 2 years? And what do you need in order to help us achieve that goal?
With vertical aerospace, you certainly can, because we are certifying in 2028 and we hope for EIS in India in 2029 onwards. So my name, Mr. Secretary, fellow industry colleagues, my name is Derek. I'm the VP and Head of Commercial for Asia Pacific for Vertical Aerospace. Vertical is a British eVTOL aircraft OEM headquartered in Bristol. We're about 430 people listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We're in the stage of advanced flight test development, and we're looking to certify our piloted up to 4 to 6 seater aircraft that can fly 160 kilometers maximum range, certifying with the UKCAA and EASA by 2028. We have just launched the Velo, so we rebranded from the VX4, but now we officially talk about the Velo, and we launched that in London in December last year. What we are targeting is to fly piloted transition in the next few weeks, and by doing that, we would achieve a major technical milestone. We're also working on a hybrid electric variant. There are 2 main topics that I would like to raise for Mr. Secretary's consideration today. And of course, as an aircraft OEM, you must talk about type validation and certification. The second is about supporting operators on initial operations. On the first topic about certification, as an OEM, nothing is better for the aircraft OEM as well as the operator, but to have a very clear path towards type certification or type validation here in India. Today, the ministry and the DGCA has started off with some working groups, but I believe that it can go a step further to have deeper industry roundtables to be able to share our experience, either by participating as observers into some of these international programs, or for us to be able to provide those linkages and program specifics with other aviation authorities that we're working with. And so in the case of Vertical, we have pre-sold 1,500 aircraft, and in addition to EASA and UKCAA, we're working with the JCAB, ANAC in Brazil, as well as the FAA. The second point, I echo what Kanika has mentioned on solidifying and concentrating on launch cities. I think that will give some focus to everyone. So I think I only can echo that point. The last bit, of course, related to the point of certification is a clear timeline for when and a national roadmap of how India sees this development. Coming quite quickly to my topic number 2 on initial operations, I think the key thing would be certainty around a route network in these specific launch cities, with the certainty around vertiport and airspace considerations to be able to launch an initial network to get it off the ground. And so that means to do all of that, you probably need a single coordination entity within the DGCA or MOCA to be able to bring all these points and aggregate them together as a one-stop shop. And maybe that can also be quite powerful to be able to aggregate the interest from the different OEMs and to be able to work across the respective ministries because it's beyond a single entity. So these are the key points I wanted to bring.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to stop you there. Certification, we're going to be talking about in the next panel as well, so we'll move that one to that panel. Next, Maruti from Blue Jay. Certification is one thing, of course, but operational markets, what do you see as the obstacles in front of you in getting your eVTOL in service in the future?
Sure. So this is Amar from Blue Jay Aerospace. So we are an eVTOL company from India, and we are looking to enter the market with logistics initially, but our target is to serve both passengers and logistics in the long run. So one of the things that would still be an obstacle for us to start operating is trying to get a blanket certification. So to the Secretary, what I would request is if there could be any provision for getting use case specific approvals, use case specific regulations while we are all working towards getting blanket approvals and certifications done. That would help operators and OEMs to enter markets much faster, and that also helps both ends to get a lot of data while we are proving our reliability and hours under our belt. And the second point is, I think this is something that most of us agree with me, that in the recent RDI fund that has been announced, the 1 lakh crore fund by Indian government, we have seen sectors like space and robotics specifically mentioned, and there is another sector that they call as sectors of strategic interest, and we all believe eVTOL is one of the prominent sectors of strategic interest for the country. So if there can be a provision or some kind of allocation of specific fund within that for eVTOLs, be it for operators, be it for vertiport developers, be it for OEMs, I think that would be very helpful for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Maruti. Moving to Gautam from Viasat. So digitization, some of that around communications, is that something that the established operators like Viasat are gearing up for in AAM?
Thank you, John, for having me here today. Just for the interest of the audience, I'll just give you a little bit brief about Viasat. We provide actually mission-critical strategic services to Government of India, defense forces, including some of the strategic aero platforms. We also connect maritime vessels. We give connectivity on the aviation side and also on enterprise side. I think we have almost 35 plus years of experience on aviation. I think we're the only one company which actually gives connected aircraft, starting from safety services, classic aero, which I'm sure DGCA has approved it as a safety service, and also there is another service called Safety Suite Broadband, which actually helps on enhancing safety, plus also ensuring efficiency in crew operations. And then we have on the cabin side in-flight connectivity. Coming to advanced air mobility, we believe there's a huge potential in India. Obviously, there are a couple of things where we want support from DGCA. One critical thing is Indian space is quite dense. It is important to have coexistence between crewed and uncrewed aircrafts, and important to have SATCOM services which can ensure beyond visual line of sight. And we've been discussing with Ministry of Communications, WPC, regarding getting this L-band as a safety service. In fact, just for everybody's knowledge, Government of India has given a sui generis license which mandates L-band to be a safety service. And our request to Honorable Secretary would be, in case if you can collaborate with the Department of Telecom and confirm that L-band becomes a safety service, so that this can be used by UAVs and advanced air mobility for safety navigation purpose. This can actually help on command and control and data links. Just to, my last point here would be, L-band is like 99.999% kind of reliability. There are certain specific drones which India is buying from US, and we're already in discussions with General Atomics to have one of our channels into it. And finally, just, since space is little sensitive, I just want to ensure everyone that we have authorizations from InSpace for our 5th generation satellites and 6th generation satellites over India. And we also have our infrastructure built in India with Department of Telecom. So our ask is actually to just have a clarity on L-band being used as a safety service for advanced air mobility. Thank you.
Thank you, Gautam. I thought we were talking about low-level economics and operations, and now we're in space. But good to know you've got the space reserved. That's very helpful. Kuljit, how are you going to space? What are the obstacles do you see in front of NALWA in getting us operational in the next few years?
Well, thank you, Jonathan. It's always difficult to challenging to speak on the same topic when you already been spoken a lot over that. You have a little space less to speak of because of maximum things are covered upon. But still, I have a little bite to take over that. The first thing I believe over that challenges is not that in context. I just believe that there is need to take care of the stuff. That is, there is need of the use case policy drafting. So like see if I talk about the very specific use case, now there is a buzz more of the, when we talk about the eVTOLs, the first picture comes in a picture is air taxis. So I thought that the best use case for the humanity or Indians would be medical services. So there is a need for the use case specific like priority corridors for these services, hospital landing zones sort of stuff. So we have to synchronize with this policy drafting in that way. Second, I believe is that, see, although eVTOL is a MOCA's baby, no doubt, because this is linked with the aviation directly, but other ministries to be, connected within various forms of their support, like healthcare ministry. If I talk about the organ transport and other stuff, so we need to be connected with right now that this is something product we are bringing up. What are your take over that? Similarly, road and transport ministry can take up in that way. So other few points which already have been taken by Divya and Amar as well, that there is a need to draft the specific eVTOL linked policies like PLI, R&D and all that. Even there is a skill development, point raised by Divya. So under skill development, we have a National Skill Development Corporation and Aviation Skill Sectors Council. So there is a need to drive the eVTOL specific NSQF aligned programs so that in future when it will be aligned, we'll be here to provide the input. So there will be a career opportunity and scope for the people to get in. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kuljit. Again, skills and training, yeah, very much the poor cousin of the debate right now. We need to get that to the forefront. Thank you. Amit, there you are. So Amit, I know we had a conversation earlier. I think you have some views from the operator side as well that are some of the challenges that we face. Over to you to flag those for us.
So Amit, co-founder of Hunch Mobility, and I also head the CII chapter on short-haul mobility. So my learnings are really more from the ecosystem and consumer adoption. So years back, 20 years back, I used to head sales and marketing when Reliance Infocom first started, right? At 16 rupees a minute, we went to 40 paisa a minute to launch. Everybody thought it would be a cakewalk. It took 3 years for us to get traction. Consumer adoption, habit change takes time. Which brings me to the part about the unit economics we discussed for helicopters. For the last 6 years as Hunch Mobility, we have been doing the by-the-seat helicopter services in select routes. So I'm going to talk about the learnings for that. We are also in the process of filing in the US, and we filed our unit economics, right? So I would like to go by some assumptions that we've done, right? We've assumed that based on the cost of a craft being $5 million, a craft flying for about 80 hours, right? Landing charges, not the 15-20, but the 10,000 rupees, a 15-minute journey on a helicopter with 4 passengers, right? Which is a heavy load, will actually come to about 9,000 rupees for a 15-minute journey, right? I'm sure, you can validate that, but those are really what the numbers will appear to close by. And then if you look at each part of the value chain as to why is it 9,000 rupees, right? We can see where we can optimize, right? So whether it is landing fees, whether it is the cost of the craft you manufacture in India, those will have to get optimized to ensure that there, in a very price conscious market like India, there is significant demand. The second, I come back to the area of landing infrastructure. If you look at advanced air mobility, there are 2 sides of the coin. One is flying operations. The second is the infrastructure business. Like a circle is only as strong, right? A chain is strong as its weakest link. You can have all the craft in the world, but if you do not have a vertiport infrastructure, that really doesn't get efficiency, right? Currently, heliports in India were designed for VIP traffic, charter flights. They are not being designed for fast-moving customer traffic. I think there are different standards, and that in what we've done in our operations have seen a major issue. I'll last come to, I said, history is a big teacher. If you look at what has ailed the helicopter industry, right? Why has short-haul mobility not taken off? One of the issues comes about the inventory. We all say India's got only 250 helicopters, right? Is financing. So while fixed wing has a very robust financing system, even with GIFT City coming up, right? We are one of the very few companies which have an entity in GIFT City. Financing by the banks, I think there's just one incident where the banks have financed. The banks today say, apart from the collateral on your helicopter, also put 60% of the cost of it as collateral, right? Now, with eVTOLs coming where there's no use case of residual value, I think this is going to become a significant challenge because we are not talking of 250 helicopters. We are talking of a couple of thousand eVTOLs. And unless for us as operators, we can get that link to work on efficient leasing rates, right? Ensuring supply in the market is going to become a challenge, right? So these really are my observations. As I said, we started 6 years back with a dream that the vision is that this is democratizing short-haul mobility. As we look at current cost, and I brought back a 15-minute journey from Bangalore airport to the city center, in our patch what is close to 9,000 rupees, gets you to choose what your target segment is. So I agree, you may want to look at the medical segment, right, on that. So that's where we are looking at very hard, that based on the unit economics, what may be the best segments to look at. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. That is a real tour de force of some of the practical issues, and I think flagging financing, again, something we probably don't talk about enough. How are we going to finance all of this development? Christian, if I can call on you now to contribute. You bring a different angle because we've assumed electric or hybrid electric, but there are other power sources that are still evolving.
Yes, thanks. I hope the microphone is on. So, Christian Mundigl from Red Aircraft. We are known as developer and producer of V12 certified diesel engines for utility applications and trainers and high altitude applications and helicopters, but not as producer of hybrid electric units, generator units for eVTOLs or for APUs as well. And we want to contribute to the big trend of seamless transportation from door to door, and want to encourage all the eVTOL manufacturers also to look into the area of range extenders, not only batteries. I learned in the last month that when you fly 6 passengers for 40 to 50 minutes, you need batteries around 900 to 1,000 kilogram. So with a hybrid generator solution, we can do this for 2 hours and more with half of the weight. So, and when it comes to compare between turbine and piston engine, we burn less fuel, we have less cost and also less noise, which is a topic. One of my colleagues already mentioned this, and our engine can burn sustainable aviation fuel and in the future also hydrogen. So we are ready to support India, but we want to bring this technology to India, but we are looking for partners for production. We want to produce locally, and we are looking for maintenance partners. So one of the obstacles is maintenance. So please don't forget to train also mechanical engineers and technicians for eVTOLs, because we still have for range extenders some mechanical parts. And the second is, so when you design vertiports, please consider also refueling stations. Don't forget them for our range extenders. So yeah, that's from our side. We are located in Germany at the Formula One racetrack Nürburgring. You can come to us anytime, and looking forward to a prosperous future with you in India.
Thank you, Christian. So there is a future for fossil fuel potentially in this picture. And one thing I echo, one thing I don't hear of that maybe we need to talk about more and we need to challenge our eVTOL manufacturers is, what is the life of a battery going to actually look like in high utilization service? How often are we going to have to swap these batteries out? What is the cost of that going to be? We need to get clarity around these issues, otherwise maybe it's a diesel engine instead. Okay, I think we have one last contributor on this panel, Mr. Praveen Aditya from Andhra Pradesh. Did they join? No, not so far. Okay. Well, then we have managed to get round our panel with comments on everyone in reasonable time. We're almost close to the end of this particular session, so I'd like to turn it back over to Mr. Secretary to perhaps offer his initial thoughts on what he's heard today. I've been making notes as we go in an effort to try and sum up what I think the key areas are that the panel has raised. The first is on the market. What are the use cases that will get us underway? Is it really air taxi and airport transfer, or is it more likely medical and healthcare services, more specialist services? What are the locations? Where are we going to start, and how do we start having that conversation with the governments and the state governments and municipalities in that place? Price. Is the price of the service, at least at the start, something that's really going to put this out of reach? Is that dream of democratization of air transport that we heard earlier, is that really possible? Second area was infrastructure, in particular vertiports. I'm hearing a lot of common thinking around, we've got to crack this vertiport issue. What are they? What do they look like? How do they work? And where do they have to go? And who's going to pay for them? Airspace integration. Nothing flies unless it flies safe. Do we have to leap to autonomy and digitization? And certainly, what are the rules? What are the rules we're trying to digitize or automate in the first place? Training and skills. Very glad to see that come up so frequently. Pilots. We think we're going to need lots of pilots unless Phil gets there first with a fully autonomous aeroplane. Who's training them? Where are they coming from? Are we factoring in the cost of that? And as Christian just reminded us, it's not just pilots, it's engineers and MRO and having the maintenance infrastructure. Lastly, financing. Surely, as we've learned some over the last decades of aviation, surely this is going to cost huge amounts of money. Who's financing this and where is that money coming from? I think that's a fair summary of most people's points. So it's quite the agenda, Mr. Secretary. There's quite a lot to deal with, and I think as the ministry, as the central body here that can help pull us all together and get some real direction, we look to your leadership. Perhaps I can pass it back to you to finish the session with some thoughts on what you've heard today. Thank you.
Very pertinent issues being brought out in the first part of the session. And what I feel that we have to have an enabling ecosystem, like most systems for this advanced air mobility. Of course, I also feel that I'll start with financing. Financing, of course, the ministry is working very, very steadfastly on so that not only the entire sector, wherever it can be kind of, we can classify this as an aircraft, or it could be a eVTOL, or for that matter, seaplane or helicopters. In case if long-term, long tenure, the formal sources of finance is made available at competitive interest rates, obviously it helps the sector. So this issue, of course, the senior economic advisor is here, and we have taken it up with all other concerned ministries in right earnest. And there have been demands. There have been demands to declare this aircraft segment as kind of a classification as infrastructure. Once it is classified as infrastructure, obviously what happens that you have long tenure loans, infrastructure loans at very, very competitive rate. So this is one, and in fact, Mr. Srivastava pointed out about that 1 crore, that 1 lakh crore, that fund, and eVTOL, or for that matter, similar other products do not find mention. Of course, this is a very good point. I have taken good note of it, and I'm going to talk to the concerned secretary on this, how we can actually include this with wider publicity, so that all the stakeholders actually get to know about it, that this can also be sourced from there, because this is going to be a very good kind of a plan. Just been launched, so this is the right time to get into action on this. So I'm grateful for this. Second, so financing, of course, we will have to work in very, very close coordination. The second relates to your infrastructure, and also that enabling modalities. Of course, I agree with what Mr. Agrawal pointed out about that various agencies, in fact, some others also pointed out that various agencies are involved, and 26 permissions could be more actually. So we have to have other ministries on board, Ministry of Urban Development, and then only thing is that this subject being urban administration being a state subject, we'll have to take the municipal bodies and also the state governments on board. And sometimes if there is a commissionerate system, obviously the police and fire and related stuff will be taken care, but otherwise we will have to create some kind of a common platform for working together with the state government. Here we can form some kind of a subcommittee. One subcommittee could be through on financing, where some of the members could be there. Another subcommittee could be how to resolve such issues relating to permissions, dedicated corridors, somebody pointed out, and also the issues of fire safety, police permissions, so that you do not have to struggle. The moment you start struggling, in fact, going from one office to another, and then the third office, then the fourth office, then obviously it's not going to take off. I'm talking about the efforts, leave aside the eVTOL. So this is number 2, where we can actually work. Good that it was pointed out. The third pillar that I see, get to realize, is the enabling the skills related. We can have some kind of in fact, it's not that we do not have a dearth of, obviously we do require more pilots, more MROs, but obviously there could be large common areas where could be the pilots, could be the retired personnel from the forces, the MROs, people working in the MROs for the MROs part, and also the AMEs, the engineers, the FTOs. For eVTOL and advanced air mobility, in fact, what we can do is that we can have some kind of a common resource pool. It is not that the ecosystem is already there and developed ecosystem is there. So we can actually work around that, so that this particular segment of advanced air mobility is also taken care. The fourth is there are policy issues and regulatory issues. Of course, on the regulatory issues, the other day when we met in the ministry and we had convened a meeting, almost all the agencies and stakeholders complimented the role of the ministry, and also particularly the DGCA, where all the enabling mechanism is already there in place. But I can assure you from this platform of Wings 2026 that whatever policy directions that we require to be undertaken from our side, all positive policies will be in place after after due approvals. So I can assure all the. Then, yes, on the financing side, in fact, on the Gift City also, we are working in close coordination. Yesterday also there was a session, and the CEO of Gift City was there. We are working on the tax rationalization and also the period for which the taxes, tax exemption going to be available. This matter has already been taken up at various levels. So how to make the leasing and the terms of leasing more favorable for eVTOL, that we are working on. We are working in general. The benefits will accrue to this segment as well. Then the last from my side, yes, some kind of incentive mechanism for research and development. This, of course, we are going to examine, and also as far as tie-up with very good suggestions, many good suggestions with tie-up with Department of Telecom, then the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, with the state governments, with prominent hospitals on the demand side. So this, of course, we are cognizant of this, and in days ahead we would like to hold meetings with them and take them into confidence, and so that we can go ahead on this path. So this is one very, very important arena for the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and we would like to assure all the stakeholders that we will work together. And the subcommittee was a very good suggestion. So that periodically we can meet and we can review the progress made and all the pain points in the process. If we are able to resolve from our side, we would like to be in that role. We would like to take that role so that the journey moves ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you to all panelists. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time. Thank you all the panelists for making such excellent contributions and doing it in a very short amount of time. That got us there on time. I'd like to just propose a vote of thanks to the Honourable Secretary from Ministry of Civil Aviation for your leadership, sir, and for listening and coming up already with some good ideas to take us forward. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to, one last thing to flag, the FICCI Advanced Air Mobility Task Force is also there to help coordinate and pull ideas together, chaired by Kanika Tekrawal. We will happily take, we haven't had a chance to do Q&A today, but we will happily take any communications, or if you're not a member and you think you should be, get in touch with me or with Ronak Sharma at FICCI, and we will make sure you're invited. We'll continue to use that forum. We're going to take a short break now and then start again, hopefully on time in about 5 minutes. Thank you all. Thank you, sir. Nice.